Over 600 air attack munitions were launched into Ukraine overnight, and some of those weapons didn't stop at the front lines. That was a Russian drone striking Poland, about 100 kilometers inside Polish territory. Authorities say a drone crashed into a cornfield in Osyny and exploded. No casualties, but windows shattered nearby. This wasn't isolated. Drones were reported over Romania and Lithuania the same night. NATO jets were scrambled. Allies are asking, is this probing provocation or something worse? Poland's defense minister called it deliberate provocation aimed at testing NATO defenses. Tonight we look at what these drone strikes mean for NATO's security and why leaders are alarmed. News outlets are already calling the incidents a pattern, not anomalies. For the last year, drone fragments and crashed munitions have appeared across NATO borders. My name is Sam. In the next 5 minutes, we'll break down what happened, why it matters, and what options NATO has. We'll cover the pattern of strikes, Russia's drone capability, recent incidents, and NATO's choices. Keep in mind, these events happen while peace talks and high-level summits are unfolding. Many of the munitions are Shahed-style loitering drones, cheap, expendable, and hard to track in mass. They can be launched in numbers to overwhelm air defenses. That presents a tactical problem. Saturation attacks force nations to reveal their defense setup. 2 days ago, similar incursions were recorded in Lithuania and Romania. Fragments recovered, questions raised. This looks less like accident and more like probing, testing where defenses are and how allies react. If Putin wants to mass forces at the border, finding blind spots first makes tactical sense. This came after a high-profile meeting in Alaska between President Trump and Vladimir Putin. President Trump even compared the moment to historic détente, then pulled back from peace talks. Quote from the president, "It is very hard, if not impossible, to win a war without attacking an invader's country." Meanwhile, Russia carried out a massive strike on Ukraine. One target was a US-owned electronics factory in western Ukraine. Officials say dozens were injured. This is an investment and a civilian facility, showing the broad reach of strikes. This attack happened close to the EU border, another reminder of spillover risk. So far, drones inside NATO borders, a major strike inside Ukraine, and tense diplomatic signals. Next, we'll dig into Russia's drone capability, NATO responses, and the critical event that escalated tensions. Russia has invested in loitering munitions and mass launch techniques over the last decade. Cheap to produce, long-range, effective in swarms, the math favors quantity over quality. When launched en masse, they can saturate radar and force costly countermeasures. First, incursions into Latvia and Lithuania. Second, crashes in Romania. Third, today's strike in Poland. Evidence, crashed fragments and burned debris. Investigators repeatedly report remnants consistent with Russian-made drones. In Poland, a 50-centimeter crater, scorched metal and plastic, identified as a Shahed variant. NATO faces a strategic dilemma: defend every inch or risk escalation by shooting down incursions. Activating air defenses across multiple borders is costly and can trigger political fallout. Admiral Stratus, we need more offensive weapons, F-16S, training and economic measures to pressure Russia. Russia's foreign minister argues security talks without Russia are a road to nowhere. Sam Vo quoting Lavrov, discussing security without the Russian Federation is a utopia, but actions on the ground tell a different story. Missiles and drones still fly each night. President Trump announced withdrawal from the peace talks, citing bad faith and renewed pressure. He posted a pointed image comparing the moment to Nixon-era diplomacy, then warned of tougher measures. That shift matters. Rhetoric is translating into concrete support for Ukrainian offensive options. Every night, civilians in major Ukrainian cities wake to sirens. Hundreds of drones and missiles fired nightly. Civilians are hurt, infrastructure damaged, and Western investments destroyed. The strike on the American company in western Ukraine underscores the broad economic risk. Putin may be probing defenses, creating political pressure, and attempting to force territorial concessions. The Kremlin mixes diplomacy with pressure. Public promises one day, military strikes the next. NATO's toolkit includes harder air defense, more offensive weapons to Ukraine, and economic diplomatic pressure. Special Envoy Keith Kellogg, leaders must decide. Talk is noise unless backed by policy and tools. Suggestions include confiscating frozen Russian assets and deeper integration of Ukraine with NATO structures. In practical terms, more planes, more training, and more anti-swarm capabilities are on the table. All of this leads to a critical moment, a single strike that changed the political calculus. Key moment, a drone crashes 60 miles inside Poland. Not on the border, but deep inside Allied territory. That single event raised alarms across capitals and helped push the White House away from peace talks. 2 days of incursions and a major strike inside Ukraine prompted President Trump to withdraw from negotiations. Policy options: 1. Strengthen air defenses. 2. Increase offensive support to Ukraine. 3. Use economic and diplomatic pressure. First, defensive coverage. Second, offensive capability for Ukraine. Third, seize and use frozen assets to pressure Moscow. Quote, increase the flow of offensive military weapons, more F-16s, more training. The cost of inaction is human. Civilians pay while lines of negotiation are used as cover for strikes. Russia's public denial and private pressure complicates simple diplomatic solutions. NATO must decide whether to absorb these probes as risk, or to respond decisively and coherently. Recap: repeated drone incursions, major strikes inside Ukraine, and a crash deep into Poland signal escalation. The takeaway: vigilance, stronger defenses, and unified political will are needed to deter further attacks. Watch for NATO posture changes, Ukraine's tactical choices, and whether Western leaders turn rhetoric into action. Tell us what you think in the comments. Should NATO respond more aggressively? And click to watch our next deep dive on anti-drone defenses.